Boston Celtics missed out on Giannis Antetokounmpo, and now it seems like Jaylen Brown's name is sitting right there in the middle of the fallout, and Boston is reportedly listening to offers for Jaylen Brown with teams calling. So the question is Jaylen Brown the next big domino chip? This is a former finals MVP to be moved. We're also going to be talking about trade rumors around Kawhi Leonard as multiple teams seem to be watching the Los Angeles Clippers situation, and Detroit is looking for playmaking and shooting with Kawhi Leonard that could lead them to going after a couple of targets that are reportedly available. And Anthony Edwards and his camp are shutting down any and all talk of him and trade noise, and he's committing to Minnesota. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related. I'm the host, Haize. But more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And reportedly, the Boston Celtics are now listening to trade offers for Jaylen Brown. This one comes from Sham Charania, who says this: I know there are going to be hard conversations ahead for Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics. There's going to be fallout from this. There already is. Since last night, my understanding is that the Celtics are listening to interested teams and offers for Jaylen Brown. I wouldn't say they're actively shopping him right now, but the Celtics are listening to offers. There are multiple interested teams that have started to reach out and engage and have a level of dialogue with the Celtics. That does not mean it's going to result in a trade, definitely. Jaylen Brown has 3 years left on his contract at the Supermax. He's extension eligible in July. We'll see where this goes, but the fact that they are listening, that lets you know what there's a decision to make one way or another for the Boston Celtics. So that's from Shams. And, not to say that Shams should always be taken as it's for sure going to happen or anything like that, but he did not specify which teams have reached out in regards to Jaylen Brown. But there have been some previous rumors. If we link that, the Houston Rockets, Atlanta Hawks, Portland Trailblazers, all teams that have been linked to Jaylen Brown prior. And so we're going to see in regards to that. Now, this is, of course, fallout because the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade that did not go through, where they apparently offered Jaylen Brown and some picks to try to get Giannis in the building. So the question now becomes about, should the Celtics trade Jaylen Brown, right? And we're going to talk about both sides of this argument as we do with everything. Let's talk about the yes side. The Celtics have already put Jaylen Brown out there in the Giannis offer. Once that gets out, the relationship naturally changes. It doesn't mean that it gets completely, in disarray to where it can't be repaired, but the relationship definitely changes some. And if teams like Houston, Atlanta, and Portland are really ready to bring some big trade offers for Jaylen Brown, Boston has to at least listen to that. And they have major value with 3 years left on his deal, right? And could bring back younger talents, pick, and flexibility for this Boston Celtics team. And I think that's ultimately what you're probably looking at. We heard about Boston being interested in Trey Murphy. There's a lot of teams interested in Trey Murphy. But at this, I'll say this, right? This other side of the argument is no. They should repair this relationship. And that's the side that I err on. This is a former finals MVP. Him and Jason Tatum have already proven that they know how to be 1A and 1B together. Jaylen Brown is a proven playoff contributor. He's still in the prime of his career, and you still have him locked into a contract for 3 more years. Trade him because of fallout from a failed superstar swing could feel like a bit of overreaction that could put you behind an 8 ball that you don't need to be behind right now. Now, is it going to be difficult? We'll see. One thing is winning cures all. I think if the Boston Celtics make and show a commitment to Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum going forward, make the front court moves that they need to make and stuff like that, then you may be able to repair that. This is the only franchise that he's ever played for. Up until this point, I know I've heard there's been some rumblings and stuff but him and Jason Tatum are reportedly, they're locked in, right? There's no splinter between that relationship. There's no desire to prove it's my team, your team between those two guys. And that's kind of rare when you have two players that play at the level of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So if I'm them, I'm not looking to move off of the core. I just don't think that the value is going to be out there. I don't think it makes sense right now, not when you have years left on contracts, and try to repair this relationship and do so through winning, right? Put the best team out there. Do it through winning. If you go into another deep run and God forbid you go on another finals run or something like that, it could be the cure-all that you need. Now, it could also blow up in your face. And so Boston could have just created a Jaylen Brown problem, but we'll see. The question also that you have to ask of this is Jaylen Brown worth the bidding war? Absolutely. He's a former finals MVP with two-way experience. He's a two-way wing. And, Jaylen Brown could be the number 1 on the team or, an elite number 2. If Jaylen Brown's your number 2, you're definitely going to be a championship, caliber team. So I think that that's the part that you have to play in this one, man. So yes, it's worth a bidding war, and the Boston Celtics are probably going to get a lot of offers. And I do think that he's good enough to change a franchise, no doubt about it. But the price tag has to match the ceiling of that. And if the Boston Celtics do move him, let's keep in mind, they were moving him for Giannis in the open to that. It's not like they were just open to moving for a couple of picks in the first round of this draft. They were looking to move him for Giannis Antetokounmpo. So that means that the value, even if they do put him out on the open market, should be astronomical. I guess we'll see how that's going to work out for Jaylen Brown. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you're the Boston Celtics, with everything that's going on, do you think you could be forced into a situation where you have to move off for Jaylen Brown? Or do you think Jaylen Brown's going to be perfectly fine? They'll mend this, and it'll be fine in the long run. Let's move on from one superstar that was almost traded to another one that could be traded, and this comes from Kawhi Leonard. There are some reports and talk that Kawhi Leonard could be moved, and teams are waiting to see what's going to happen. This comes from Shams as well, says this. I don't think the draft is necessarily dependent on Kawhi's future, but I think in the coming days and weeks, we'll start to learn a little bit more about the Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, and a potential outside team as well. Now, he goes on to say that there are multiple teams that are monitoring the Kawhi Leonard situation over the next few weeks. He said that yesterday. Now, we have heard that the Golden State Warriors are a team that's interested in Kawhi. We've heard that the Miami Heat could have Kawhi Leonard on their backup plan if they struck out a Giannis. They actually got Giannis, so you can take them out. We heard the Minnesota Timberwolves could be a team as well. So, Kawhi Leonard has a $50 million expiring contract, and that is going to require a significant extension to be part of any deal that you have here. Now, the Clippers went through their draft yesterday. They had a pretty damn solid draft, actually, and they could be set up and ready to go on a youth movement and get even more assets in the future back now that the first round's done, in the future back for Kawhi Leonard. You have now Keaton Wagler there, right? You have Darius Garland there as well. Do you think that those guys can form a new young core for you as you try to build out and go forward? That's the question. You traded for Ben Mathurin. What's going to happen with Ben Mathurin? He's a restricted free agent. So the Kawhi Leonard part of it is interesting, right? And so the question now becomes about it. Should the Clippers trade Kawhi Leonard? Let's talk about both sides of this. The yes side of it. You move him before the value drops. With an expiring contract, he's into the final year of a deal. And while the Clippers, I don't view them as a true contender out west anymore, even though, if he's healthy, they can compete. I don't view them as like a flat out contender to win the West. It's time to move and pivot and collect the assets before being forced into a harder decision. And that decision could be, do you go ahead and just extend him and pay him what he wants because you can't risk losing him in the free agent market for nothing? But then the side of this is the other side of no, right? When Kawhi Leonard is healthy, he's a true elite two-way player. He's an all-NBA level player, and trading that type of player signals a reset for sure. And Steve Ballmer may not want to move off of a superstar like that unless the offer is hugely overwhelming. But I'd say that I err more on the side of yes, it's time to move him, right? I think you're trying to hold on to a dream of keeping Kawhi Leonard and hoping that you're going to be able to compete for something meaningful in the time that you have Kawhi Leonard. I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't think they're going to be able to win a title. You have the Spurs that are out where they are now. You have the OKC Thunder where they are now. You have, of course, teams like the Minnesota Timberwolves that are trying to get aggressive. You have the Houston Rockets still out there. Like, the Clippers were a fun team to watch last year, and they were better than I gave them credit to. But let's keep in mind, they won 42 games last year. 42 games, right? And so with that said, do you see them being better than the Houston Rockets? No, I don't see them all of a sudden becoming better than the Houston Rockets, even with their draft pick of Keaton. Are they better than the Minnesota Timberwolves? I don't think they're going to be better than, because yes, they gave up Julius Randle, but I don't think they're done making and maneuvering. They're not going to be better than the Thunder, the Spurs, or the Denver Nuggets. And the Los Angeles Lakers probably not going to be better than that team either. So I think that the Clippers are right to try to strike where the iron's hot. Where you have Kawhi Leonard having any meaningful value, this is the time where you're probably going to need to move on from him. And now it comes down to the Warriors, right? For the Warriors, is the Warriors a dream fit for Kawhi Leonard? I think that it's a dangerous gamble, make no mistake about it, but he gives them another scorer, another defender, and if they're trying to maximize the window there, Kawhi Leonard is the exact type of name for the Golden State Warriors to call on, and I do expect them to be on the phones about Kawhi Leonard if he's made available, right? Now, of course, Kawhi going to Golden State sounds like a 2K move more than a real-life move, but if it were to happen in real life, if there's any legitimacy to it, it's a major move to happen in real life. So I guess we'll see what's going to happen in that one. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. If you're the Los Angeles Clippers, are you moving off of Kawhi Leonard or are you holding on to him? Next topic before we get out of here is that Detroit is ready to be aggressive, reportedly. We already saw them make moves in the NBA draft, right? So, we know that they are a team that's not outside of being aggressive. They're the number one team in the East last season, even despite, having the playoffs not going the way that they wanted it to go, of course. But the Detroit Pistons with Cade Cunningham are a legit team in the Eastern Conference, right? And you have Ausar Thompson, who I think still has tremendous upside that you have down there. You're probably going to lock in Jalen Brown. You just added Ibuka Okore there in this draft as well, which I think is going to be a massive player for them eventually. I don't know right now, but it gives them another on-ball creator and scorer. And so now we have it reported of some players that the Detroit Pistons are reportedly interested in. According to, let me get my facts on this one, Mark Stein, that the Detroit Pistons are looking at players like Norman Powell, Coby White, and Tyler Herro, saying this. The Detroit Pistons have added Norman Powell to the list of free agent targets this offseason. The Pistons also have Coby White as a possible free agent, along with Austin Reeves, who's widely expected to re-sign with the Los Angeles Lakers. Additionally, the Pistons have trade interest in Tyler Herro, Isaiah Joe, and Trey Murphy to go along with Kyrie Irving. So it seems like right now, the Detroit Pistons are looking to add something major as far as a scoring punch to their team. And we look at how the playoffs went for them, it makes a lot of sense, right? And so the side of this that you want to talk about is this time for the Detroit Pistons to be aggressive, or are they rushing the timeline? I'll say this. Cade Cunningham needs spacing to get to work, right? They need secondary shot creation, and they need playoff-ready guards and wings. Norman Powell would bring that. Tyler Herro would bring that. Coby White isn't necessarily, I wouldn't call playoff proven because he was on the Chicago Bulls so long, but he does bring another player that can create his own shot and score. And playing off a player like Cade Cunningham, it could take it to the next level, right? But at the same time, you do need to watch rushing your timeline. You have decisions to make on Jaylen Brown. You have decisions pitting with Ausar Thompson. Tobias Harris is probably the veteran on his way out. And overpaying for the wrong shooter could end up limiting your long-term flexibility. But Detroit should be spending like a playoff team. And I'll say this, if it's a signing rather than a trade, you're not really giving up assets for that either. And so I do think Detroit should be ready to spend like a playoff team. I do think that they need a little bit of extra oomph before they get ready for the playoffs next year. And they can go further and maybe not disappoint in the playoffs like they did this past year. And that's good. Like the Detroit Pistons are a team that I expect to be more aggressive with where they are right now. This is the type of team that's young. Your best player in Cade Cunningham is locked in. And this is the time where you make your move. And there are shooters and scorers that are available out there that can definitely help your team. Look at the Detroit Pistons. They have $65 million under the tax, $72 million under the first apron, $85 million under the second tax apron this offseason. It's time to go out there and make some moves. Yeah, they're over the salary cap, but because they are beneath the tax, you can absorb more money than you send out, right? You can do those type of things. So I think this is the perfect opportunity for the Detroit Pistons to make an aggressive move this offseason. We just got to see what this is going to be. I already love what they did in the draft. Now, let's see what comes next to that, and we'll see. One of the things that also popped up in the coming days is Anthony Edwards, right? Especially after it was reported that he's already made a push to his front office that he wants to see the roster improved as well. With Brian Windhorst and Tim McMahon, there have been some teams over the last couple of days that had questions about the long-term future of Anthony Edwards with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then after the Randall deal, of course. But according to Chris Hine of the Star Tribune as well, is that it's nothing to worry about here, saying this. Sources close to Anthony Edwards have pushed back firmly against mounting speculation he could eventually seek a trade from Minnesota Timberwolves, calling the franchise the ideal situation. The dismissals come as prominent NBA voices began publicly questioning Edwards' future with the franchise following Monday's Julius Randle trade. So reportedly, according to the Star Tribune, there are no truth to the rumors that Anthony Edwards could ask his way out. And that's good. Like, Anthony Edwards has been a player that's grown as a leader. He's always held himself accountable. He's not separated himself from the problems either of the Minnesota Timberwolves and their shortcomings. And I think that shows great leadership, right? And we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen in regards to this. I think that this is a good spot for them to be in. And he's right to put pressure on them to continue to improve the roster. You see how the Western Conference keeps growing and changing and stuff like that. And you do not want – every year you don't improve, especially in the West with young teams going as far as they're going, you're technically getting worse. And Anthony Edwards and hopefully the front office should be worried and concerned about that because you don't want to fall behind. You didn't make it to the Western Conference Finals for the third year. It's time to grow and to get that going. But teams are going to keep watching anyway, and they're going to monitor what's happening now because now they smell blood in the water. But I don't think anything's going to happen or be pertinent anytime soon. We'll just see what's going to happen here. But that's going to do it for today's episode. I want to hear from you guys down below. What do you think the Boston Celtics should do with Jaylen Brown? Is Kawhi Leonard actually going to be made available if you're the Los Angeles Clippers? And is it now time for Detroit to make an aggressive move this offseason to continue building around Cade Cunningham and give themselves a better shot at the playoffs next year? I want to hear from you guys down below on that one. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform. Send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBACentralPod@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball and NBA related, and I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
Been a presentation of the Break Media.